Tonight, murder investigation. Human remains found near Farmington. A new home. A tour of the new SPCA building in Fort St. John. And possible measles exposure, this time on a flight out of the North Peace Airport. Well, good evening and thank you for joining us. And we begin tonight with another murder in the Peace region. A body has been discovered near Farmington on 251 Road near the Kiskatinaw River. On Monday, Dawson Creek RCMP responding to a report of a burnt-out vehicle. Well, they arrived to find a body inside a car. So far, it's not clear who was inside or how they may have died, but police say the vehicle was a silver 2005 Mazda 6, possibly with Alberta plates. Now, Mounties are looking to speak with anyone that saw smoke in the area in the days leading up to October the 13th. And investigators are also looking for video footage from game cameras that may be set up nearby. If you have any information about this case, you are being asked to call the RCMP. The body was discovered not far from where the remains of Renee Didier were located in May of 2024. And the Dawson Creek RCMP are once again asking for the public's help in finding a missing teenager. Police say they are looking for Todd Harvey. Mounties receiving a call back on October the 10th saying the 17-year-old had violated his 10 p.m. curfew. Well, he was last seen that same day at around 5:30 in the afternoon. Harvey is being described as an Indigenous male. He stands 5 feet 10 inches tall and he weighs 104 pounds. The 17-year-old has brown hair and blue eyes. And Harvey has been reported missing 3 times so far this year. The RCMP are asking anyone with any information on his whereabouts to contact local police. The North Peace SPCA officially opening its new centre in Fort St. John today. And for the occasion, the centre hosting an open house welcoming members of the community.
An open house, inviting the community in for tours of the centre to meet the staff and let them know about the programs we offer in the community.
The SPCA began construction on the new location about 2 years ago, and it's now fully operational. Hamanishi says it offers animals protection and adoption services, a food bank program, as well as a driver transfer program. The old North Peace Centre closed in March of 2022 after it was deemed unsafe to occupy. The new building cost $1.26 million and can house up to 14 dogs, 12 cats, and 2 rabbits. The emergency department at the Tumbler Ridge Health Centre once again on diversion today. The ER has been closed for much of the day. The diversion started at 8 this morning and is going until 8 this evening. Northern Health says normal operations are expected to resume on Friday. And once again, staffing challenges are being blamed. Patients in need of life-threatening emergency care are being advised to call 911 to be transported to the nearest available hospital. Residents in Tumbler Ridge have been protesting announced cuts to the health center. Northern Health is currently reconsidering those cuts and has asked the public for feedback. There's a new possible measles exposure to tell you about tonight. The BC Centre for Disease Control says if you have flown out of Fort St. John on October the 6th, you may have come in contact with the virus. The BC CDC says Air Canada Flight 8368 left the North Peace Regional Airport at 9:50 a.m. The plane arrived in Vancouver just before noon. A passenger on the flight then hopped on a plane to Kelowna, leaving YVR at 12:50 p.m. The CDC says possible exposures may have also occurred during the layover between flights at the Vancouver International Airport. Turning to Kamloops now, where 7 obstetrician gynecologists who make up the entire OB/GYN department have all resigned their hospital privileges at the Royal Inland Hospital. This comes from a letter sent to community healthcare providers. The doctors say safety issues have pushed them to the point that they are now unable to continue within hospital care without support from the Interior Health Region and the province. The Interior Health Authority says it is disappointed by the decision, but there will be no change to the obstetric or gynecological services at the hospital. We're learning more about that cyber attack at the airport in Kelowna. Hackers briefly took over information display boards at the PA systems at several North American airports, including 2 here in British Columbia. The intruders used the hack to spread pro-Hamas messaging. Ben Milger has more on the implications of the security breaches.
At about 5:15 Tuesday evening, the information boards at Kelowna International Airport stopped displaying flight information and instead switched to messages in support of Hamas. Israel lost the war. Hamas won, it said on screen. The message also called U.S. President Donald Trump a pig. At the same time, the PA system began to broadcast an unauthorized audio recording. Airport staff immediately contacted RCMP and Transport Canada.
After we completed that threat assessment, we determined that there was no specific threat to either the airport or the traveling public.
A photo from inside the airport shows staff talking to passengers with a megaphone. One outgoing and one inbound flight were delayed. Transport Canada confirms it is investigating the incident, along with similar cyber attacks at Victoria International Airport and Windsor International Airport in Ontario. Similar messages were also played at Harrisburg Airport in Pennsylvania. Kelowna and Victoria airports say the audio message was uploaded through a third-party software company that provides services to a number of airports around the world. In Victoria, staff quickly disconnected the system and there were no operational disruptions, delays, or cancellations. Cybersecurity firm Fortinet tracked more than 12 billion cyber attacks in Canada in the first half of 2025.
Constant threat exposure management is key, making sure staff are educated. It's no different than workplace safety in any other organization. Cyber has to become a regular conversation around that. Cybersecurity awareness is super critical in every organization.
RCMP and the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity have opened investigations into the hacks. Ben Milger, CTV News, Vancouver.
And it's been 2 months since a strike by Air Canada flight attendants ended. However, there are still plenty of customers waiting on refunds.
Try to go around it to give the clients a hard time, and hopefully many will tumble from that big group of people.
Antonucci said she paid $16,000 out of pocket while she was delayed in Dublin. She says that covered things like booking new tickets with another airline and hotel and meal costs. Air Canada has told her she'll get a little under $16,000 of that back, but the money hasn't arrived yet. The airline says more than 500,000 customers were affected by the flight attendant strike. The company expects to have most claims resolved by the end of this month. The BC General Employees Union is once again ramping up job action as its strike for better wages enters into its 8th week. Today, leaders of the Professional Employees Association announced they will be pulling all of their remaining members toward the picket line. The PEA represents workers including government engineers, geoscientists, veterinarians, and pharmacists. They are also without a contract, and now 1,600 professionals have also walked off the job. They join thousands of BC GEU employees who are already on picket lines. The union is seeking a 4% general wage increase per year for the next 2 years. It's a proposal, they say, keeps up with rising costs and reflects the value of public service work. Now, talks have broken down between both unions and the BC government. The province is insisting it has put forward a fair offer. Canada Post is now vowing to protect mail delivery services for rural and remote and Indigenous communities as it moves ahead with sweeping changes the federal government announced last month. Back on September the 28th, the federal procurement minister gave the Crown Corporation 45 days to present a recovery plan. He also approved changes to the Postal Service's mandate, including phasing out door-to-door delivery. Well, 55,000 postal workers walked off the job in late September to protest those changes. Now, mail is moving again, but under rotating strikes that have hit Dawson Creek and Fort St. John this week. Canada Post says it'll be fair and respectful to employees as it works through operational changes. A promise today from Ottawa to get tougher on crime. After years of pressure from provinces and police services, the Prime Minister now says a new bill will crack down on violent and repeat offenders. And as Rachel Aiello reports, there's also a pledge to hire more police officers across the country.
The federal government says a crackdown on repeat violent offenders is coming.
It will no longer be up to the Crown to prove why someone should stay behind bars. It will be up to the accused to prove to the court why they can be trusted to be released.
Prime Minister Mark Carney says next week the Liberals will introduce long-awaited bail reform legislation to keep those accused of serious crimes out of the community. The new bill will also amend the criminal code to allow consecutive sentencing for those convicted of multiple crimes, end conditional sentences for a series of sexual offenses, and impose tougher penalties for organized retail thefts. These amendments are aimed at addressing headline-making crimes, including the surge in some cities of brazen smash-and-grab robberies. But they're getting mixed reviews from criminal defense lawyers.
And I think it's a measured approach. But at the end of the day, they just send a message because it don't really change that much, I have to say. But it sends the message that there is public concern.
I think it may work to curb that type of behavior, but I also think it is a ton of lip service.
These measures come after concerted pressure from premiers, police forces, and opposition parties.
And yet Mark Carney has done absolutely nothing to reverse the Liberal laws that caused this chaos and carnage.
Today, Carney also announced a nearly $2 billion funding boost for the RCMP. Coming in the next budget, the money will go towards hiring 1,000 new officers, increasing the cadet recruitment allowance, and dedicating more personnel to probing financial crimes.
The devil is in the details. We're going to take a look at what comes out next week, but we're happy to see that we were listened to and some of the things we advocated for were included.
Carney is set to continue his pre-budget pre-positioning tomorrow. The Prime Minister has plans to make what he called an important announcement on border security. Rachel Aiello, CTV News, Ottawa.
And the BC RCMP issuing a warning tonight to be aware of a sweepstakes contest scam after a senior was scammed out of $40,000. Mounties in the Kootenay region say a 90-year-old woman from Rossland lost the $40,000 after she was convinced she'd won a prize. She received a letter in the mail saying she'd won $2.8 million. That's when she was instructed to send the money through e-transfer and gift cards to an unknown person in order to claim her winnings. Police say the funds cannot be recovered and they're likely gone forever. New numbers on hate crimes in Canada were released today. They show that after 6 years of increases, the numbers remain high. Over 2,200 hate crimes have been reported to police in 2025. That's down across the country by just 3 incidents from this time last year. 45% were related to race or ethnicity, nearly 23% by religion, and 12% because of their sexual orientation. Well, relief is on the way for Canada's softwood lumber industry, that according to Canada's industry minister. Melanie Joly also says Donald Trump's tariffs have been causing confusion at the U.S.-Canada border.
We're seeing also that the interpretation sometimes of executive orders coming out of the White House are not the same depending on the border agents in the U.S. So this is something definitely that Minister LeBlanc is working on.
Joly says the government will provide funding through banks. That'll be helped along by the Business Development Bank of Canada. She also says the feds are working on a Buy Canadian policy that will make sure major projects and infrastructures are built with Canadian wood. Lumber has been one of the industries targeted by the White House, along with steel, aluminum, and the automotive sector. And days after the car maker Stellantis announced it's moving production from its Brampton, Ontario plant to the United States, we're getting more insight into the discussions between the federal government and the auto company. The Prime Minister saying he's received assurances that the Canadian plant will not be abandoned. Michael Couture has more from Ottawa.
They're looking at different model being produced in Brampton.
That assurance came in a phone call the Prime Minister had 2 days before the company announced it was moving $13 billion in investment to the U.S. Mark Carney also reminded the global CEO that Stellantis committed to maintaining its full Canadian footprint in Brampton in exchange for federal and provincial money.
We need to be strong in terms of making sure that companies that have done well by virtue of the various subsidies or initiatives that have been made meet their obligations.
It comes as Ontario's Premier has implored the federal government to hit back on American trade policies that Doug Ford says pave the way for Stellantis to move production.
There's times to hit back and there's times to talk, and right now is the time to talk.
Prime Minister.
That restraint could be tied to a bigger calculation on Canada-U.S. relations.
This is China versus the world.
The American Treasury Secretary is calling on Western allies like Canada to back the U.S. in the trade war with China.
We're going to have a fulsome group response to this because bureaucrats in China cannot manage the supply chain or the manufacturing process for the rest of the world.
That comes after China's ambassador to Canada told CTV's Question Period that if Canada removes its 100% tariffs on Chinese EVs, China would remove tariffs on Canadian products like canola.
It's not that simple. Nor is the relationship in the auto sector that simple as just open a door here with China with no impact on the relationship with the United States and the impact on activity here in Canada.
In the middle of all this, plans are underway for Carney to meet with President Xi Jinping at the end of the month on the sidelines of the APEC summit in South Korea. Mike Lecouteur, CTV News, Ottawa.
All right, stay tuned. It was a windy day across the Peace region, and Noah's back after the break with weather to tell you all about it.